New South Wales. In just one night, an entire field can become a battlefield. At first light, farmers step out and freeze. The ground is torn apart, wheat is shredded, and every row of soil looks like a bulldozer tore through it in the dark. But this wasn't a storm. It wasn't nature. These are the marks of Australia's most destructive invader, the wild boar. They move like thinking shadows, traveling in groups, coordinated, silent, striking under the cover of darkness, and disappearing without a single sound. In just minutes, months of a farmer's hard work can be wiped away. Each year, the damage climbs into the hundreds of millions, bringing disease risks, collapsing biodiversity, and tearing entire forests down to their roots. And in the middle of this growing crisis, Famigo Farm is here on the front line, documenting the raw truth of a battle most people never see. A battle between humans, armed with data, technology, and the responsibility to protect their land, and an invasive species smart enough to read every tactic we use against them. This fast breeding, this wildly adaptable, push an entire state to the edge of an ecological emergency. Do we, as humans, have the tools, the strategy, and the resolve to take back control? That's the question Famigo Farm is here to answer. And the journey begins right now. And to find that answer, we have to begin with the biology of this invasive species itself. Because the biggest secret behind the wild boar population boom in New South Wales has nothing to do with how many tools we use or how much force we apply. It all comes down to one thing: their own biology. Unlike most native Australian mammals, slow breeding, sensitive to environmental change, the wild boar is a reproduction machine, built with near-perfect efficiency. A mature sow can breed twice a year, producing anywhere from 6 to 12 piglets at a time. And when food is plentiful, a population can double in just a few months, turning every control effort into a temporary fix unless there's a long-term strategy in place. And they eat everything. As true omnivores, wild boars consume anything they can find: roots, tubers, insects, bird eggs, small reptiles, even newborn livestock, if the opportunity arises. That varied diet allows them to survive anywhere, from dry grasslands to thick scrubland to the tangled river wetlands of eastern New South Wales. And when they're pressured, they don't go down easily. A hide-like armor, backed by a thick layer of fat, gives them remarkable resistance to many of the tools humans use. Stopping a charging adult boar takes high-penetration ammunition and a perfectly placed shot, especially in dense brush, where distance is limited and reaction time is measured in seconds. They survive on speed, on adaptation, and on an evolutionary advantage far beyond any invasive species Australia has faced before. And that is just the biology. When you look at the economics, the numbers hit even harder. In New South Wales, in the northwest region alone, researchers estimate that wild boars cause nearly $50 million in losses every single year. Across the entire state, earlier studies put the damage to livestock and cropping at roughly $14 million annually. And on a national scale, across all of Australia, new research shows that the combined cost of control and agricultural losses now exceeds $156 million a year. The impact is enormous. Farms struggling to recover, landholders pouring time and money into protecting their livelihoods, Ecosystems pushed to the edge. To respond, the New South Wales government committed significant resources. In October 2003, a dedicated $13 million program was launched to curb wild boar populations across the state. And more recently, officials announced over $40 million allocated since 2023 to support landowners and communities with trapping, baiting, and coordinated control operations. Every dollar, every hour in the field is part of a statewide ecological campaign, because this is not just a hunt, it's a fight to protect the land, the crops, and the native ecosystems of Australia. The impact of wild boars on Australia's ecosystems is catastrophic, and in many places, almost impossible to reverse. They're not just an agricultural threat. They are a native species destroyer, pushing countless Australian plants and animals closer to the edge of extinction. They dig relentlessly. In their search for food, wild boars tear open the soil, ripping out native vegetation, breaking the root systems of young plants, and triggering severe erosion. When the rains come, the loosened topsoil washes into creeks and rivers, turning the water muddy, polluted, and dangerous for aquatic species, and for the communities living nearby. Worse still, they eat eggs and newborns. Conservation teams have documented ground-nesting bird eggs, freshwater turtle nests, lizard eggs, and amphibian broods devastated by wild boars. And in Australia, where many native species reproduce only once a year, and nest directly on or near the ground, the loss of a single nest can mean the loss of an entire generation. Then comes the greatest threat of all: disease. Wild boars aren't just invasive. They're ideal hosts for some of the world's most dangerous pathogens. If African swine fever, a highly contagious disease with nearly 100% mortality in domestic pigs, ever reaches Australia, the wild boar population would become the perfect vector, spreading it faster than any other animal. A single outbreak could cripple Australia's commercial pork industry, valued at over $5.3 billion. This is no longer about a few herds tearing up fields. This is a biological crisis, one where the line between the wild and outright extinction has never been thinner. And to support these operations, every firearm is chosen with purpose, matched carefully to the terrain and the scenario at hand. In open country, with long sight lines and wide grasslands, bolt-action rifles like the .308 Winchester or the .270 Remington are the preferred tools, stable, reliable, and capable of precise, controlled shots. In dense scrub or close-quarters environments, many teams rely on semi-auto .2223 platforms or 12-gauge shotguns loaded with slugs, providing fast, responsive control when distances shrink and reaction time matters. Some professional control units also run AR-style rifles with mid-range optics, ensuring accuracy in tall grass and limited visibility corridors. Every tool is inspected, every setup regulated under state law, and every shot taken only when absolutely necessary. In New South Wales, wild boar control is no longer a solitary act. It's a multi-layered campaign where technology, tools, and human strategy merge into a single intelligent response system. And out here, in this rugged country, people aren't just protecting crops, they're holding together the fragile balance of an entire ecosystem. to the bush starts with a single foundation: data. The days of rushing blindly through thick scrub are over. In New South Wales, nearly every coordinated wild boar response today begins with a screen, where digital maps, movement paths, and hotspot activity appear with clarity through GPS tracking and remote surveillance cameras. The routes that sounders use most often, the freshly rooted patches of ground, the new signs of disturbance, all of it is analyzed, marked, and assigned a priority level. It's the first step in a modern control strategy. Study the data first, then move on the ground.
I did think I was going to shoot one of those smaller ones at first, but that's when I put the second round in her. I'm saying this sow's about 50 pounds. Hopefully have some real nice straps on, nice quarters. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. Maybe some sausage, maybe some barbecue, but
when the moment comes, hunters bring more than experience. They bring technology. Thermal-equipped rifles are inspected carefully, zeroed for distance, terrain, and the conditions of the day. These tools aren't chosen to create a sense of pursuit. They're chosen to ensure one thing: a single, quick, humane shot. Because in ethical pest control, the rule is simple. If a shot must be taken, it has to be precise, aimed at vital areas like the head or the heart, ending the animal's life instantly without prolonged suffering. But the goal is never one boar. In ecological management, the target is always the entire sounder, because only by removing the full group cleanly and decisively can we slow their exponential reproduction, break the cycle of population rebound, and truly ease the biological pressure on New South Wales's ecosystems. An effective operation isn't measured by how many shots are taken. It's measured by how much crop loss is prevented, how much water quality is protected, and how many native species are given a chance to survive. This isn't a hunt. It's ecological surgery. And in that kind of operation, every decision, every pull of the trigger is guided by data, ethics, and responsibility.
He's a good thing. Just shot sitting over under the tree.
Out here, there's no room for impulse, no free hunts. Everything is structured pest control, methodical, tactical, ethical. Every step, every piece of equipment, every round chambered serves one purpose: to protect the ecological balance of this land for the generations that will follow.
No se puede, mete lo que le estoy diciendo al cruce hacia adelante. Sí, sí.
Wild boars aren't just pests. They are a test of humanity's ability to manage nature. They evolve to outsmart every measure we deploy, forcing us to act intelligently, disciplined, and ethically. This battle won't end anytime soon, but it must continue. In New South Wales, every shot fired carries no hatred. It carries the weight of ethical land management, agricultural stewardship, and the ecological legacy of Australia. Neo Farm stands alongside these efforts. Act responsibly, know the enemy you face, and continue to follow Famigo Farm, where we tell the stories of the fight for balance, not for glory. In a world where nature always responds to human behavior, balance doesn't come from force. It comes from understanding and responsibility.